So he examined all the basic things we do in agriculture. I mean, really basic, like plowing, like pruning, making compost, flooding the rice fields, and he reevaluated all of those things and eventually came to the conclusion that none of them were necessary. By the time I came to his farm, he had been doing this for about 25 years, and he was getting yields that were comparable to or greater than his neighbors. He wasn't creating any pollution, and he wasn't using fossil fuels or anything, and the soil improved with each season. Humanity has separated itself from nature and sort of sees itself as being in control and relies on the intellect because we don't have access anymore to intuitive understanding.
In your opinion, do you think that these natural methods, these natural farming methods, are applicable on a large scale to feed global populations? Or is this interventionist human control system inevitable?
Oh, no, I think it's definitely possible, and in fact, it's the ideal way for humanity to survive, by using natural farming and relying on nature's inherent ability to produce abundance all by itself. You learn it in schools and from literature, from the media, from religious training, and it's this message of people as being special and better than other species. That's where it all begins. And so to practice natural farming, you need to also make that as you're healing the land and helping nature get back to its original diversity and strength, then a corresponding change needs to happen in the mind of the farmer, or it's just not going to work.
Right.
So all of these arts have the final stage is you kind of go through the program and then you see it and you're back, and then you don't need the program
anymore. Need the program anymore. Very nice.
And that's what I'm hoping. You know, when I have seen people start on the road with permaculture and then gradually they just head straight in the direction of natural farming.
That's cool.
And so I'm not trying to knock permaculture by any means. I'm just pointing out the difference, hoping that will help certain people that can see that and want to go in that direction. It just shows them where the path is to come out.
Right.
And then you won't need permaculture anymore.
Right.
And you can give up that control and that design aspect.
Right. Yeah, I've often thought of permaculture as a concept that has only arisen in response to the crisis we're in ecologically on the planet. And I think that indigenous peoples, in a lot of ways, practiced a lot of the principles of permaculture without needing a word or a concept for it, because it was just inherent. And now that we're so far from that, having this teaching module of permaculture as a way to realize what we've lost and how we can get it back is valuable. But as you're saying, the destination is to where we don't even need to have these concepts and this idea of doing all this design work. I think that the earth as it originally was created was a paradise garden full of abundance for everybody.
Yep.
And there was no need for anyone to really do very much other than, go out and forage and enjoy life. And it's because of our mistakes and actions that we've taken as civilized people that we need these concepts in order to heal ourselves.
When we're talking about modern culture, I mean, and changing modern culture, I mean, it's crazy out there.
Yeah.
It's really hard to figure out how to do that, because everybody's pulling in a different direction.
Yeah.
So, and one person can't really have such a great effect, but where you can have a great effect is that you can work on yourself. And I think that's the place where people can create the greatest change. And when I say yourself, I'm talking about you, yourself, and your family, and your friends, and your immediate community. It's also very difficult for one family to get along and be self-sufficient on their own.
Yeah.
But if you do a whole community, take a whole community of people that are farming according to these natural farming principles, then it is doable.
I feel like one of the biggest barriers we face is not so much, people say, oh, people don't get along, people end up having drama and things break apart, but I feel like even bigger than that is the barrier of the sort of legal structures that exist, and the economic model we have discourages people from living naturally and from recreating a village-like setting. And
Yeah.
I almost feel like that's one of the downfalls of the permaculture eco-village movement, is that they don't have enough influence on the sort of socio-political environment, and they don't have enough teeth to protect themselves from being stopped by someone who comes and says, oh, this is a regulation violation, and you're not allowed to do this, and you're not allowed to build more than one house on this land. And
Everything is stacked against organic farmers these days. So it is, it's a very, very tough question you're asking. I don't know the answers to those things, but I think that going to community and working on creating the solutions and healing ourselves and healing the land and healing the separation from the land, I think that's the way to go directly. There is the idea, and it's even within the permaculture movement, there's this kind of split where there's one group wants to they want to tighten up standards of the certificates and the courses and and to gradually become more like a substantial institution and look a lot more like the modern institutions, so that, and this is primarily people that want to get permaculture into the universities and into government organizations, because their way of thinking is that that's where the power is.
Right.
And if we can sort of steer the ship, get in there and kind of subvert and change the course of the ship, then that's the way, then we can have some influence.
Right.
Just, you were saying that there's no influence, and so they want to go that way.
They want to kind of join up with and become more credible to those institutions.
Exactly. They want the permaculture institution to give them the credibility.
Yeah.
They want to become more like the institutions.
Right.
So they'll be accepted.
Which is dangerous.
And just personally, I don't think that's the way to go at all.
I'm reminded of in your book when people would ask you or Foucault, I can't remember which, about, I want to do natural farming, but I need this and this and this. Can I have it both ways? And you're like, the short answer is no.
Yeah.
It's not natural farming unless you just let it be natural. And the desire to keep the system that we already have in place and to keep aspects of it is ultimately going to prevent us from being able to understand the bigger picture, I think.
Yeah. Well, people want things, we've and a desire, extravagance of desire is really the core problem.
Yeah.
Is that we've gotten to want more and more and more. And one of the reasons that the indigenous people, they didn't have to work very hard, because they interacted generation after generation. They interacted with nature in the same spot, and they saw how nature responded, and they learned to make the place even more abundant, and they had a great significant effect on the landscape with all of their horticultural skills, or whatever you call it. Tending the wild is what Kat Anderson calls it. It's a great term. And once they got the system set up, they didn't have to work very hard at all.